Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Packer Universe podcast, aka the Pup List. We're a Green Bay Packers fan podcast that brings you topical and relevant Packers news, along with our most humble, subjective opinions. This is kind of a special episode because, for the first time ever in Packer Universe podcast history, we are live for the episode. I'm trying it out. Ren. So here we go. I don't expect anyone to join, but this is a little bit test for my sake and Ren's sake. But this is episode 316. We're recording this on June 12th, 2025. Mandatory minicamp just completed the final day 3, and we're here to start discussing everything that happened this week. I'm your host, Tay. And joining me on vid tonight is our one and only MVP.
Ren, what up, Tay? The Packers school is out for summer, as we were talking before we went live. Alice Cooper, you could have bumped a little bit of 60 seconds. We'd be okay on the YouTube live, but you were a little scared. That's okay. But it's over, Tay, and we have got about 6.5 weeks until this thing really gets underway. So let's get going, Tay. Let's talk about mandatory minicamp, what the week was, what it wasn't. A lot of it gets the juices flowing, but it's a lot of jerseys and shorts. Nothing really to write about. We can all come home with proclamations of, Bull Melton is the next Sam Shields of, the offense, defense. He's next Troy Brown. Those kind of is he Travis Hunter for the Packers, Tay? Lots of different things, but I'd like to let you lead us off and where you'd like to go.
Well, I know you didn't really want to record tonight, Ren, but this is mandatory, episode 316, so you have to do it. You were afraid of getting injured tonight, but we went ahead anyway. But one person
I was going to show up either way, Tay. Whether or not I was getting paid for this, which I never have, but someday maybe.
Because one person's fate, one team member's fate that we knew was going to come to a head, that was kind of alluded to. It was a good point by Wendell Ferreira last week, was that going into this mandatory minicamp, Jair Alexander, they had to make a decision, or Jair and his agent had to make a decision, but they needed to do something. And I guess overnight on Monday, they decided to basically cut Jair. They weren't able to do his contract. They weren't able to have him take a pay cut. They weren't able to trade him, and they were afraid of him injuring himself, and then they were going to be on the hook for everything. So, Brian did talk to the press early Tuesday and indicated that, he's a great guy. He meant a lot to this team, but it just wasn't going to happen. And he missed a lot of time over the last 3 years, and we want to go somewhere different. And this screams every other time this has happened to the Packers to me. You have a player that's good, but they're just, often injured, and the money is too much. A David Bakhtiari kind of thing. And it's just like, this is what happens to the Packers sometimes. And like we kind of figured, they were going to cut him loose. This time, maybe just a little bit. I thought they were going to keep him just because they needed him. I think everyone thinks the CB room needs a little more help. But according to Brian, everything's fine. The CB room is A-okay. Nothing to see here. We're drafting and developing. We got a free agent in the house now, so we're going ahead full steam. And I think that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to keep this room as is, and they're just going to play with them. That's usually what they do with one position on the roster. They just kind of go ahead anyway and make those players, work out. And I think the CB room is that position group again. With or without Jair, but I'm sad to see Jair go. He was a great player, great, kind of like a card, as you would say. Ever since Jamal Williams was here, I think he was that type, like levity, joking around. But I am sad to see him go. However, they're going to save some money by doing so. And
The
I can
money is Tay.
we can come back to that, and I can tell you how much they're or what they're on the hook for. But yeah, what was your initial reaction, Ren, of this whole Jair situation that came Monday night into Tuesday morning?
Tay, you heard me say before Wendell even said it a few weeks ago. I didn't buy it. I didn't think this thing necessarily was going to get worked out. When we got overtures that, there's a potential, working out of the situation with the Packers and Jair's camp. I just, everybody's ready to say it's going to happen. It's going to get over the hump. And my thought was, I'm not really sure about that based on so many different layers to this thing. And ultimately, as I proposed it to Wendell, what do you think? Because I'm not there. And he said the same thing. This was kind of the line drawn in the sand was mandatory minicamp. We heard, as many did, that he was going to show up. And according to Brian, they had a good conversation on Sunday. And that conversation ultimately led to the release of Jair Alexander. And it should be of no surprise to Packer Universe. The funny thing to me, Tay, is a lot of Packer fans out there overreacting like, the cornerback room is burned down. This thing's on fire. What are they going to do? This is a guy that's played 16 of the last 37 games available today.
Yeah.
That is, essentially, the Packers had less to work with through week 10 there forward last week, and it really wasn't even that.
Last year, yeah.
Last year, thank you, not last week, but and they were fine today. They've been able to do things. Obviously, we know the safety room was remade. That helps on the back end. We know that Javon Bullard, stick of dynamite, he can play in the slot and does play in the slot. And if Jair came back, what does that even mean for his availability? Talking about availability is the best ability. We've heard that a lot this week when we'll get to Bo Melton later. But when you can make yourself to things, it's one thing. And in Jair's case, unfortunately, he just wasn't available really much of the last 3 seasons. And when you're paying a guy that kind of money, it doesn't make sense, right? It's interesting to see how the Packers took his contract. I know Ken Ingalls wasn't a fan and moved all the dead money into the 2025 season. That's a whole other story there. But ultimately, Jair, in his unavailability, we heard, through multiple sources as this thing finally came to fruition, that the Packers did have a potential trade in place with the Buffalo Bills, but Jair's camp would not take a contract restructure. So, the whole thing with the Packers then getting to, can we work a restructure, kind of spoke the same thing with Jair's camp. They tried a few weeks back. They made overtures this past weekend, one last time, to say, hey, this is what we can do, potentially allowing you to make all your money, potentially more, if you're available every game day. And his camp said, nope, we're not budging. And ultimately that left Brian with no other decision than to release Jair. And you can't blame him. There's 17 million reasons why, hey, let's get that money moved into 2026 and give us a lot more flexibility when we have guys like Zach Tom, Rasheed Walker, Quay Walker, Sean Ryan, and multiple others that are going to be free agents. And that money goes a long way. The Packers initially, as Wendell told us, were in a situation where, they were over the cap in 26, and now they certainly won't be. We know the cap goes up year to year, but Jair was no longer fit with his team today. And if he and his camp are so stuck on this, you're not going to see him get a deal anywhere close to that kind of money. They're betting on themselves. We understand that. But, ultimately with bringing in Hobbs, with what they have, I think they're, from a starting cornerback standpoint, I think they're in better shape than they were last year now that Jair's gone, because you couldn't count on the guy. And again, availability, Tay. Don't let me get my Mike McCarthy going here, Tay. It's really good. But availability is always the best ability. And Jair has not been that for multiple years. Let's think about this guy, Tay. He was drafted all the way back in 2018. He was one of Brian's best picks, honestly.
I think it's the first one.
Yeah, he was his first and one of his best, where he traded back up in when he made those switch arounds with the Saints that year, and good on him. But unfortunately, cornerbacks aren't as important, in my opinion, as they might have been, years past. There aren't the lockdown Darrelle Revises anymore, guys like that. And usually, even if you do get a guy like that, it's like that for maybe the first 3 to 5 seasons, and it falls off pretty quick. And we're well beyond that point with Jair Alexander. I think he can go to a team. I think he probably will play more games than we expect in the 2025 season. But I don't think he is the quality player that he was some years ago, and it's okay. I'm not worried about it. If you look at the Packers cornerback room, yeah, once you get behind the starters, if they have injuries, I think it's a problem. But I think what they're going in with, they're in a better spot today than they were last year this time.
Yeah, that's a good point about he's played less than half of the games. In as far back
Three
as you can
seasons,
remember, 3 seasons.
Years.
So
Yeah.
it's like, what's the difference? But yeah, it's just too bad that he kind of stood his ground, and I guess we blinked first and cut him, and that we couldn't work that out. But maybe he's we don't know the details, whether he wanted out and just wasn't going to budge anyway, or if the Packers made him a really low deal, like what was that? It I'll be curious to find that out. But I mean, there's always a story. There's always a dramatic story run every off-season mini camp into training camp, and this was it, right? This was the story. This is it. Whether it was comparable,
It's been percolating, Tay, for 5 months.
Correct. So there's always the story. This was it. It's finally over. But with the release of him, it always brings up questions about the cornerback room and and everyone's got an opinion on it, and most people think it's not bolstered enough. And what are they going to do? But like I said before, I think they're just going to go through it with who they have, what they have now, and just roll with the punches. And let's get into Bo Melton. So the first day, he was lining up and running some DB drills with the defense, and that was, I don't know if it was meant, I don't know if the Packers and Matt LaFleur did this on purpose to kind of quickly cover up the whole Jair thing. Let's just move on quick. Here's something shiny, flashy over here. Check it out, Bo Melton. Bo Melton's playing defense. Everyone just sucked onto that like a magnet. I think it's fun. I think it's funny. I don't think there's any huge merit to it. I think it was, Matt even said in this press conference on Tuesday, yeah, this was kind of like a necessity, sort of. But it's also because he has played DB in the past. His brother plays DB. He can do it.
Max Melton for the Arizona Cardinals, who's a very good cornerback in the NFL. Yep.
So I just think this was something that was the team was doing it, but the media and the public just were drawn to it because it's different. It's like, whoa, Bo Melton can do it, and it made kind of sense too. It also made a lot of sense because they needed someone. He can play that position, and there are a lot of wide receivers on the roster, so why not try something out in minicamp where it doesn't matter? They're running in shorts, like you say, Red. It doesn't matter what's happening in minicamp. It really doesn't. And so why not take the opportunity now to do something crazy and maybe just have people forget about the whole Jair thing and the cornerback room just for a little bit.
I don't think it has anything to do with that, Tay. Nothing at all.
So I just don't. This was fun, but it's not going to last. We're over it now. We're done.
I think the Melton thing will continue into training camp, Tay. And again, I don't think it's not a reactive piece to Jair no longer being in the building. It's simply, hey, number one, they start minicamp and you got Kalen King and Micah Parsons not available. They're out with injury. You need another body out there.
Yeah.
As Bo would tell you, he didn't tell anybody about it, but when he was initially brought into Green Bay, Matt LaFleur and others asked, what do you think about playing quarterback? I mean, remember he was brought in as one of those late season signings, or right after the season ended, at the end of one season 2 3 years ago, just kind of like a ho hum, yeah, signed to the Packers after the season ended, so be it kind of thing. Um, Bo Melton's a talent, and what this really tells us is we know about the depth at wide receiver. Bo Melton is really on the outside looking in,
Yeah,
to make the squad.
absolutely.
And what we've heard this week, obviously the Packers love him, as he said, through some of the stuff on WeFence. He's a great special teamer, and they
Mm-hmm.
want to give this guy, based on everything he is as a teammate. He does all the hard work. He sets the precedent that you'd want every player to be. He loves football. He works his butt off. If every player could be a Bo Melton, you'd be in great shape, and you would probably push hard in the playoffs if you have any talent at all. So it tells me the Packers are looking for any way to find a way to make sure that Bo Melton can potentially be on this roster. Because when you are that hard of a worker, you're that good of a teammate, you play great special teams, and they can find a position, potentially, hey, if he could play cornerback in a snap, they don't even necessarily need him to be
Yeah,
a guy there, but hey,
every
they
down.
have some injuries. They can press him into action just because he made the roster. Again, availability, best ability. If this guy can play wide receiver, he can play on special teams as one of your best. And in a pinch, if you need him, he can play cornerback. You're better for it. And certainly, obviously he can maybe trade some notes with his brother and, just sharpen his pencil over the next 6 weeks that he comes into camp and they can't say no to a roster spot, say. And I know that Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst, specifically based on what Bo said, this going into this weekend, Brian and Matt both talked to him about it. Because I do really believe they're trying to find a way for this kid to make the roster. And I think
Yeah.
that's why this happened. And it has nothing to do, again, with Jair Alexander. It has to say, hey, we like our cornerback room. It's a little thin. And if we need a guy to pinch, can you be our Troy Brown and you can flip positions midseason if need be?
So you would guarantee that if Jair was on the field this week practicing, you'd still have seen Bo Melton out there
I believe so. Yep.
at DB. At DB.
Yep. Because I still think when you get beyond, the three, even if you had Jair, the four, they are very thin. And then again, you go into mandatory minicamp and Micah's not available, Kalen King's not available. You need guys out there. You need to make sure that you're prepared for any situation that comes across the field. Yeah, I think that same thing would have happened, and they would have cross-trained this kid because why not?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's interesting. Matt LaFleur said as much during his press conference about Bo Melton with his special teams ability, and being able to play both sides of the ball now. It's like he likes that versatility, and he likes to say that, especially about linemen, right? We hear that all the time about linemen, and we've employed that over the last several years. But I just find the topic fascinating. This could be a topic some other podcast, during the off season. But I think the NFL has really just over time been a specialized position sport. Like you do one thing and you do one thing well. And I think it kind of morphed into that. And I love the fact and the idea of players being multifaceted, playing different positions, because that's how it was back in the day. That was how it was in the 30s, 40s, 50s. You have a guy playing both sides of the ball and kicking field goals. Packers are well known for that, and I kind of miss that. That's fun to me. Whether it's makes sense, Brian Gutekunst would be pulling his hair out, worrying that you're going to get injured, or, kicking a field goal or something if you're supposed to be the starting quarterback. But I like the idea of like a Bo Melton actually doing that during the season, during the regular games, playing on both sides of the ball, playing on special teams. That's great, and I hope that continues. I hope that would be a trend, but we'll see. On the offensive line, I get it, I understand it. That makes sense. You're doing the same type of thing really close together, but when you're playing different sides of the ball, that can be a little bit more convoluted and a little more problematic. But I love it, and I hope that continues. But that really dominated everyone's consciousness this week, for better or worse. But it's, again, interesting. You're saying there's nothing to it on the deliberate side of things by the Packers, but it's funny nonetheless.
Again, my last word on it is they being, especially Matt and especially Brian, see a kid that offers a lot of talent to the special teams. They know the wide receiver room is really full. They want the kid to make the roster, and they want to give him every opportunity to do so. And this is just another one that helps them in a spot where they know they're thin at depth, not with the starters. If the starters are all available all year, no problem, Tay. But we know that is not the reality of the NFL, and that somebody's going to need to come in. And hey, in a snap in a game, you're down to nothing. You got Bull Melton come off. He's playing defense, and there were some nice points made by his teammates and even some of the coaches that he looked natural in some of that back pedal and getting in a position where he needed to be. So it's not like he was totally out of place playing a little cornerback, and he was excited to do so. So he likes the challenge, and that's what again, that's the kind of guy you want on your NFL team. Doing everything he can to impact the roster anywhere he can, and he's willing to do so too. He's not, so many of those guys, Tay. We know Elton Jenkins was there this week. He showed up, but he's not playing today. To the point where Donovan Jennings or Jennings, help me out.
Jennings
is playing today with the starting group. So they're mixing and matching. We've got Monk at center. Jennings is at left guard. You don't even have Anthony Belton playing in the starting rotation. Odd, questionable. But
Telford's playing guard too.
Just questionable things. But again, it's mandatory minicamp, Tay. This is not otherworldly stuff. This is jerseys and shorts in early June. That still feels like late April weather here in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Well, I was going to bring up Elton next here on the topic line. He obviously is at camp, but he's not participating. And Matt LaFleur liked to say on Tuesday, well, he's here, he's helping, and he's coaching, which is a positive thing to report. But what do you make of it? Is this purely a contract issue, like until they work something out? And do you see this extending into training camp? Because obviously he's your starting center after Myers is gone. You kind of need him. This is integral to get, especially in camp, right? Yeah, you can get away with it in mini camp, and this is the time to do that. You throw people in there. Let's Monk. We drafted him a while ago. Let's get him last year. Let's get him going. That makes sense. But when it comes to training camp, now that's a different story. So I guess what do you make of this, and how long will this last?
I hope they get something figured out today, because it could certainly be a camp. I think it'll be hold in, just like it was here for mandatory minicamp. That's what a lot of guys do nowadays. They'll show up, but they won't play. And we talked about it a little bit ad nauseum over the last few weeks with him. It's hey, you brought in a guy in free agency that is not as good as me, and he's getting paid more money than me already. I'm on my second contract, but nothing is guaranteed beyond the year. So show me some love where I have to move to a position that is, when you look around the market, is less lucrative moving to center than it would have been where I was.
Yeah.
So I think they need to figure it out, whatever that is, to massage that whole process with, Elton and his agent. Get it done before camp. Because you do not want to get into week 2, 3 of training camp and you're not practicing with what you would expect to be your ones. That is when it become a problem. You can maybe get away with it for the first 7 to 10 days of camp. You cannot get away with it beyond that. So hopefully they have this thing ironed out before they get to training camp in 6 weeks.
Yeah, there's always that rhetoric and that tagline. You have to be there. You got to be part of these practices and that. And that's what they were saying about Aaron Rodgers until what Monday he signs with the Steelers finally, which everyone knew he was going to do. But people before that were like getting on his case about not being there at OTAs. At the
He wasn't a
he
Steeler.
wasn't
Why
even
did
a
he have to be
Steeler.
there?
I know
He
exactly,
doesn't have to
but
be there. He's not even a member of that football team, Tay.
so you get a lot of that noise, and finally Aaron signs with the Steelers, and that matchup is slated for mid October.
Late
Packers are
October, I believe
going
it.
into
I want to say the
16th, maybe
16th, 18th, 28th, somewhere around there.
I think it's we're at Steelers, so we're going there, and great. I'm looking forward to that. That's gonna be fun. I wish it was here, obviously, in Green Bay.
Oh, it's
But
going to be
whatever.
a blast, Tay. I
Whatever.
can't wait for that one.
Yeah,
Jordan was talking about this week that he can't wait to do a little jersey swap, a little signature on each one of those. Play his mentor and hopefully get out of there with a dub.
I don't see. I love that. I think I don't know it, but I think I know enough about Love and Rodgers to know that they like playing each other. There's no animosity there. They know what happened to them, individually through their careers. It's not their fault of what happened. So I don't think there's no bad blood there at all. There's maybe a possible friendship, but we'll see. But
Aaron wants to kick the Packers' ass.
The Packers collectively, yes, but not necessarily Jordan.
Aaron's got that chip. He wants to beat the living hell out of the Packers if he can.
Yeah, and you're in that phase, Ren, right now where look out for the Steelers, right? Look out for them. Don't sleep on the Steelers. And then you got that when the Jets kind of like formed up with Aaron and crew, and I see a headline today, the Jets could be moving Alan Lazard maybe to the Steelers, and it's like, oh my god, like get Alan Lazard, with Aaron again, but. We're in that phase of like, oh, look out, this is gonna be great, wow, look at all that stuff, and you're just like, whatever, I don't care.
I think ultimately it'll be a blip on the radar. I think this is the last season, Tay. It's weird when you see, obviously, an all-time great of the Packers. You love yourself some Aaron Rodgers. I know you did, Tay.
Sure.
After I got off the train, you were still on the train, and at one point in time, I think I was more on the train than you were. But
it fluctuated back and forth.
You did not want to see him go. You did not want to usher in the Jordan Love era. I was like, you know what? We're there. We're ready. And it took me a long time to get there, but I was like, hey, this is great. After we went through all the drama and ultimately seeing this guy play in multiple uniforms in his career, does it mess with the legacy a little bit? I think it does slightly. Should he play football if he wants to? Absolutely. He's an all-time great. He's earned that, and it'll just be fun to watch Aaron play and see what it looks like. But I believe this is the last year. He's a bridge quarterback. He's going in there to try to, get the Steelers to where they always are at 500 and somehow make the playoffs. And, will this be Mike Tomlin's last year in Pittsburgh? I know a lot of the Pittsburgh fans are kind of sick of the mediocrity. They're just always kind of floating there.
Just like the Packers are. Are we sick of that? No.
The Packers aren't just mediocre, Tay.
Wow.
We're 1 year removed from a deep run in the playoffs where they kicked the Cowboys' ass, should have beat the Niners, and then obviously a few months ago did not have a great showing, but competed a little bit with the ultimate Super Bowl champions. And listen, the only teams they lost to last year outside of the Bears that final week were playoff teams, and they got to get over that hump. Are they finally better than better teams? Right. I think the Packers had a good year. The Packers are not a middling team. If they utilize the talent properly, this is a team that certainly can compete for a championship, no doubt in my mind.
Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm excited to see him play.
He's got that ring on, Tay.
Yeah, he's married to
Brittany with an I.
Brittany. Nobody
We don't
knows.
know
I
who
don't.
she
I
is
don't even
outside of
care.
that.
I don't even
So
care. As long as he's happy, I don't care at all. It's like,
when I
and I'm
told my
glad.
wife that he was married or said he was married, but nobody knew, she's like, "Well, he's into some interesting things. Could he could he have married himself? Because
Oh,
that's a thing nowadays. People, And I said, I wouldn't put that past Aaron Rodgers if he, self love. He talks about self love all the time. Like he, just married himself and
huh.
put the ring on. So, wouldn't have blown my mind from an Aaron Rodgers perspective that, just marry yourself, appreciate the self love, and on you go.
Well, it's gonna make a great, another documentary series for sure.
Well,
Uh,
we know Enigma's out there. I don't know if you watched it. I have not as of yet.
I have not finished it. Still working up
Oh,
the.
Did you start it?
I started it,
Okay.
but I was just like, whatever. It's kind of during the off season where, yeah, you want football, but like, that can wait.
I watched the Favre doc, not the Aaron
Yeah,
Rodgers.
I gotta watch that. Everyone says, ooh, he's as bad as you think. I can't wait.
It certainly comes off a little bit as a hit piece, but Brett still not made some good decisions in his
Yeah.
time.
Well, speaking of quarterbacks, I think Jordan Love during this minicamp did pretty well, and I guess more in the headlines were how flashy the wide receivers were. I think everyone did well. I guess that's the general takeaway. It's like, yeah, everyone did great, and you got guys like Cornelius Johnson like coming out of the woodwork.
Cornelius, man, that's my dog.
He's like second year player. Where did he come from? Seattle.
Speaking of
Hardman.
Seattle, Cameron Young. You want to talk about Cameron Young at all, Tay?
Yeah, he's a third year defensive lineman. He played a total of 17 games for the Seahawks. We just signed a DL signed him, and that's great. I think that's a position we need to bolster. So if you can do that in the cornerback room, maybe during the offseason, great. But we'll see. Maybe he's a camp buddy, maybe he's not. But I think that definitely bolsters the D line, gets some, I guess, outside experience, veteran experience on that D line. And maybe that's a position, obviously, that they thought needed some help. But
I mean, he plays true nose, Tay, and that's really basically all he can play is that true centerpiece on that defense. So we'll see. I mean, hey, listen, 4th-round pick in 2023 out of Mississippi State, big body. You certainly bring them in to compete because they are a little thin there, and I don't mind that as far as Jair's off the roster. They got an open roster spot, and this guy they bring in, I thought it was a reasonable guy to bring in, especially in a spot where they need some serious competition going into camp.
exactly. No, that's good. So I guess back on the receivers just quickly. If you got anything to say about them, go ahead. But they, that was the highlights. Obviously, when you're in camp, running practice, and not being able to hit or do anything crazy, what are you going to get? You're going to get catches and receptions. And there were a few bombs that were highlighted. Oh, this is great! 70-yard bomb. Look at this thing. The season's going to be amazing based on one 60-yard pass to Hardman. It's like, okay. I get it. It's fun.
Tay, come on now. Don't undersell that. It was a 70-yard pass, Tay.
70-yard pass.
That shows off the arm talent, as Wendell would have said on his tweets. But, Jordan does have some good arm talent. As Matt went on to say, hey, if, this is full go, pads on, he may not have got that off in time. But it's
right,
pretty to watch.
Exactly.
And he hit him in stride, and it's a fun play. And I think, as I tweeted, this time of year, you're in the dead time, Tay. We're rolling into it. That just keeps your juices going, ready for training camp. You're like, ooh, man.
I know.
Give me some Jordan Love deep balls. Like, it makes you feel good, Tay. That's just a feel good play on June. What was it? June 11th.
Yeah.
You just get behind it and enjoy it.
I know it's true. When you turn that like excitement and like candy, like football candy, into They're going to be great. I mean, everyone's going to be great. Every fan thinks their team's going to be amazing. But
Everybody's 0-0, Tay.
this is guys in shorts, like he keeps saying, and we see this every year. It's like, and there's no contact and all this. But I love minicamp because everyone shows up, everyone gets to know each other, everyone gets to shake hands and see everyone in kind of in action, right? And the coaching staff gets to put people in places that they maybe don't normally get put into when we see people out. But you've got, obviously we talked about Jenkins out, but you had Quay out, Rasheed Walker out, Banks out, and it's like, I think LaFleur was asked, like, hey, like, are these guys gonna be ready by camp? And his answer was, hopefully. It's like, oh, yeah, great. So I don't know. That kind of stuff worries me because those are starters. But I guess we'll see.
Doesn't worry me at all, Tay.
We'll see.
When you're in early June and it's mandatory minicamp, you are not going to overpress a guy, even if it's just a slight tweak. It's just not worth it. Just go take the next 7 weeks off, get your body right. Let's be ready to go. You don't want to tweak something where now, you're not ready for training camp. Yeah, that's why they do that, Tay. They don't take any risk with even these very minor things in mandatory June minicamp. It's just it's a non-starter, Tay. It's just there's really nothing to it more than we're not going to risk anything further on it.
No, I know. I just like to kind of like play devil's advocate from time to time.
And I like to tell you the truth, Tay.
Kalen King, what do you make of that? Like, he's not playing. Are we going to see him by training camp? I mean, obviously you don't know for sure, but I don't know. Just those are rhetorical questions for all of Packer Universe.
Well, I'll tell you about Kalen King, Tay, is he's got this training camp to prove it or lose it. Because I'll say things for Kalen or even Micah at the back end of the roster, even though he's a draft pick this year, there's no gimme there. There's still some decent availability for just, depth guys from Rasul Douglas, who's not what he once was, to Asante Samuel Jr. and other guys like that they can bring in and compete with them. They're not going to do that right away. And there'll be guys throughout training camp that might become available. They'll do what they feel they need to do, but guys like Kalen King and Micah Parsons, who is it Parsons, right? Out of, what is it, Tulane?
The new rookie, isn't it Robinson?
Micah Robinson. Thank you. I don't want to know why I'm saying Parsons, but that said, that's really their shot, Tay. If they don't do it and prove it in training camp, they're not likely going to get offered a roster spot. So they better be healthy come July 23rd, I believe, or risk a roster spot and inevitably either get cut, or if they're allowed enough training camp time, hopefully get a P squad spot. So it's a lot to those guys, and if they don't take it serious, like a guy like Bo Melton, who just fights to do everything he can to be a good football player, yeah, that's why you'll lose a spot even to a guy on the other side of the ball, because he's willing to do everything he needs to do to make the squad.
Obviously, minicamp is only 3 days. You get guys in shorts, but it is a time to feel good about your team and to have fun with things. I know I kind of pick a little fun at the media or the headlines. It's like, okay, yeah, you're throwing things out of proportion. It doesn't mean anything, and don't freak out about Bo Melton being a DB. It's not going to happen, that sort of thing. But there are underlying issues like Jenkins. It's like, okay, what's happening with that? That could worry you, and that's probably a legitimate worry for you. I'm sure it'll work out, but those are more serious than like whatever, Bo Melton and stuff like that. But coming out of this camp, when I was watching what was happening, I got excited about a few things. One of them being Marshawn Lloyd is back. He's fully healthy, 100%. That running back room now, I love it. hopefully he's number 2, right, on the depth chart behind Jacobs. Can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see him in action, see how that running game gets better than last year because Marshawn Lloyd is now running the ball more. That excites me, Ren. The wide receiver battle, of course, is going to be interesting. Does Hardman make the team? Where do you cut off? Do you cut off at 6? Do you cut off at 7? That to me is exciting. A lot of good talent there. And the linebackers. I mean, we drafted another couple this year after Cooper last year. That's interesting to me. Copper, last year too. So it's like, or Hopper, not Copper. I'm Hooper and Copper. Cooper and Copper. Anyway, the linebacker situation intrigues me. It's a position group on the Packers that's just kind of, I don't know, never is highlighted. I think Devondre Campbell kind of like revitalized that for the Packers, at least in my mind. But now you've got some young talent there. I'm interested to see what that's like. And that kind of spills over into the pass rush, although I'm not excited because I expect the pass rush to get to the quarterback. I'm just not. So if that happens, great. I'm gonna be stoked. But obviously that needs to change. Everyone thinks that. But we'll see if that happens. But I don't know, that off-ball linebacker, middle linebacker, to me is interesting. I think finally we have a good young core group that can now develop for the next 5 to 8 years and
8 years
for us.
Dang.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're really pushing that out, Tay.
Well, how long did AJ Hawks stick around? Forever, right? Unless you're, disgruntled like Campbell, then you get cut, you get traded, you get whatever axed. But so those are the things I'm excited about, Ren. Any good things to take away from this mini camp that you can think of?
Again, it's guys in shorts and jerseys, Tay. I love the Bo Melton story. I think it's fun, and again, I think it speaks to how much the Packers really love this guy as a football player in their team. And I think Bo Melton, if he goes out and works his butt off, I think he's getting a roster spot, Tay. Only because he is versatile and they love that. And most guys can't do that, but I think he can. And I think that was a fun story of the week. The Jair thing, it was finally nice to put that one to bed. It's gone. We're done. We've moved on. Could he end up in purple? He sure could. Or in Detroit. I bring it because, unfortunately, he's never going to get the contract he thought he could have got elsewhere. I would expect it to be, some kind of $8 million 1-year deal somewhere. It'd probably be fully guaranteed, but that's all he's going to get. Could he end up with his best friend Lamar out in Baltimore? Quite possibly. But I'm just glad the thing is behind us. Now we only have one of those and Elton Jenkins that we have to wonder about. I don't think that one will get to the level this Jair one got to. Let's certainly hope it doesn't. But, that was really the two main storylines of the week. Obviously, Brandon McManus had to make a 58-yard field goal to end practice today and get those guys to the offseason. Again, get that Alice Cooper music going. School's out for summer. Go have your 6 weeks and get your body ready, get your minds ready, mind your mentals, mind chicken stay, as a different Marshawn used to say, and be ready come July 23rd.
One of the cool things was, I guess, Mark Murphy got to address the team after that 58-yard field goal by McManus to send him home early. He got to say a few words. I think the team signed a football to present to Mark Murphy. But I'm glad they're, giving him the opportunity to do that and kind of, chumming him up and bringing him around. This is his last go around. He's only got like a month, right? Technically a month.
It's basically his farewell, Tay, because when they rejoin,
he won't be. He will not be. Yeah. Yep. So this was the last, I guess, speech, as Matt LaFleur put it, to the team before they convened for training camp. So that's great. And I'm glad he got those opportunities. I don't know if that happens anywhere else in the league with other teams, but this is how we roll here in Green Bay. You do it the right way and you give opportunities and have a lot of fun with it.
We are 1-1, Tay, in Northeast Wisconsin. The Green Bay Packers are 1-1 in all professional sports in America.
Well, we got 6 weeks until training camp, so we'll be back around doing some content. But I just wanted to say thank you for everyone that has actually showed up to the live stream. We do have several viewers currently on YouTube and Twitter, so thank you. This is actually the first time we've done it, and I'm actually surprised at the turnout, but that's great. So probably we'll be doing live streams more, Ren. This was just our first taste, but wanted to see how it goes from the technical side here, and I appreciate everyone watching and if you're out there, subscribe to our stuff, YouTube, whatever. We really appreciate that too. But Ren, thanks for joining me on a Thursday. Usually we get together on a Wednesday, but today was a Thursday because of the whole mini camp thing. I wanted to round it out and get today. Usually they have like a team building day, don't they? That they didn't do this year.
They did, but and I love that Matt. Said,
Yeah,
hey, we need the time together. We need the practice. Still ended it early. And he said, honestly, a lot of these things with some of this team building things, talking about Josh Jacobs having people over, other things like that happen, needs to happen a little bit more organically. They can do that stuff. They can force that stuff. But we certainly hope that, this team wants to build their camaraderie together. And that's up to each individual unit and different leaders to go ahead and make that happen. I really look forward to, the next few weeks when you and I can maybe speak to some guests like our friend Joey down in Chicago and talk about the Bears winning the offseason for the fifth time in a row. Other guys down the road as well. We'll fill the offseason content with some fun conversations, a few laughs along the way until we finally get to late July and we get this thing ramped up to the 2025 season.
Right on. Well, thanks for everyone for watching. Thanks for supporting us. Ren, thank you.
As always, Tay, until episode 318, Tay, on the pup list.
Oh, Super Bowl on 3. 1, 2, 3. Super
Bowl!